Hello everyone. Today we'll see about containers in D365 X++ programming language. So to understand the container, I will first of all add a runnable class. I'll click on this add and I will say this runnable class shop and I will add this one. So in containers you can hold the primitive data types and you can hold multiple types of data types. So inside a container you could have combination of your string, date, real numbers, integers, it could be anything. So they are really very powerful and often used whenever we want to write or logic. So now let us write the code for that. Now to define the container you need to use a keyword called container, and here I will say I will keep a name to my container, let's say con1, and to define elements inside your container you need to put this square bracket and you can close this square bracket, and inside this square brackets you need to put your elements. So let's say if I want to store this element, I want to store 1, and then I want to store 2, and I want to store string here. So this is how you define a container, and this is how you are going to assign the values inside your container. So now we'll see a lot of functions about our container. Now let's say you have a scenario where you want to iterate through elements of your container. In that case, we'll use a for loop here. So what I will say for integer int. I will say my integer as 1, and here need to control Z here. I will say I less than equals to So the first thing is that I will use function here named as conLength. What is this conLength? It is nothing. It is used to retrieve the length of your container and it will return an integer to us. So now to calculate the length of our container, so currently our container length is nothing. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So here I will say con length, and I will I will pass container here. I will say con1, and here I will increment my I here. Yep. So this is how you could iterate through each element inside your container using for loop. Now the second question comes, how you can access each element of your container. Now to access your each element inside your container, you are going to use a function called config. So here what I will do, I will simply say info strfmt, and here I will simply print my container elements. So I will use now function config, and if you see, I need to pass a container and then I need to pass a number. Number is nothing, you can call it as index. So the container index starts from 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to remember it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, not from 0. So let's say if I want to access the first element, I need to write here container name, comma 1. Let's say if I want to insert, let's say if I want to get the value of my this element, so I will say con, comma 2. So here, since our this index or number will be dynamic, so that will be automatically coming from our I. So this is how you can access or you can print the content of your container. And let me close this. So till now you have seen how you can define a container and how to use this, how to calculate length of your container, and how to print the container elements. Now we'll see our next function, that is conpoke. So what does this function do? This will simply update the records. So what I will do, I will simply say config, and here I need to pass a container. What is my container name? My container name is con1. And then here you need to tell which element you want to update. Let's say if I want to update the second element, like 1, 2, this one. So I will put here 2. Now I need to pass the value. So instead of 1 here, see 1 is a string. So let's say I want to have 1 to get updated like this. 1 updated. Alright. So let me tell you, like currently, how does it look? You have a container 1, okay, the name of your container, and here you have elements. You have 1, then you have 1, then you have 2, then you have a string. Okay, and here what has happened when you use this convoke function, so then you need to write here con1 equals to, so that it gets updated into your real container. So now when you have written this statement, your container looks like this. So it is nothing than, let me copy this completely. Let me copy this and let me paste this one here. Alright, so here what has happened, instead of 1, it will get updated to 1 updated. So now your container looks like this. Okay, here we have forget to define I, so I will say I. It should go now. Yeah. Alright. So guys, we have seen config. Config is just used to update the records, like update that particular element. Now let me display this. So I will say config. Now to display, we need to use config function as we have done here. Now what I will do, I will pass here container, and I will say I want to print my second number element. Okay, so now we have also seen how we can update the record into our container. Alright, so the next function that we should know is how we can insert the element inside our container. So for that, we need to use this function named as con-ins, container insert. So let me use this function. So I will say con-ins. Here I need to provide my container name. So I will say container1. So let's say I want to insert something in my starting of my container. So I will put the index as 1. And let me say if I want to add a string named as start. So I need to simply write this up. And so let me insert this as container 1 so that the value will get updated into our actual container. So once you use this function, so now your container looks like this. Copy, and here let me say this. Control Z, I do Control Z. Let me copy this, paste this one again. Now here this start will be sitting. So now you will have here start. That's it. Let me close, put the semicolon here. So we have also seen how we can use our this con insert function. Now we should also see how we can delete an element from our container. To delete the element from our container, we need to use this con delete function. So what I will say con delete, and to pass my container, so I will say container1, and then let's say if I want to delete 1, 2, 3, 4, this element, so I will say 4. Let's say I want to 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say if I want to delete both of these elements, so what I could say, I will say my start position is 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is my start position, and I want to delete 2 elements. Okay, so what this will do, this will basically eradicate these 2 elements, and eventually I will need to put this inside a container. So now when you write the statement, so now your container will look like this. That's it. Right, so this is how you are going to delete the elements from your container. Now the next function that we'll use is confine. So this is used to verify whether that element exists inside your container or not. So what I will do to use this function, I will say confined. Here I need to pass my container, so I will say container1. Then let's check whether this string element is available or not. So for that, what I will do, I will say here string. Yeah, I will use this. So this function will return as a boolean value. So if this exists, then this will return a true. So let's put this also inside info str fmt. So I'll say confined here, and I will close these two functions. Alright, so now we have also seen how we can use our confine method. The next method that is important for us is container to str. Okay, so let's say if you want to print, or if you want to get all the container into a particular single string, so then you could use this function. So what I will say con to str. Inside this con to str, you need to pass a container. So I'll pass my container. Okay, and let me display this. Let me put an info here so that we can get output as well. Right, so this is done. Now you can copy the complete container. So what I mean by that, let's say, let me define a new container named as cont container2. And what I will say simply con2 plus equals to con1. So here what it will do, it will put everything that is available inside your container1, that is this one, into your container2. Currently you see here we have just defined container2, so container2 will have null values here, like it will be totally blank. So then this value get updated to our container2. Alright, I think now you are also familiar with how we can copy the container from one container to other. Now we'll see the use of str to con container function. So for that, what I will do, I will define a container. I will say container container, and I will say con3. And let's say you have a string. So I will use this function first of all, string to container, and let's say here you need to pass a string value, and then need to pass, then it is totally optional. So what I will do, I will say here 1 comma, I will say 2 comma, I will say 3, and let me provide these separators here. And now let me print the info statement here, then you will see an output. So we'll get 3 elements inside our container, that is 1 2 3. Okay, let me put the for loop here. I will use for loop. I will say here integer I equals to 1, I less than equals to container length of my container number 3, and then I will increment my I. This is a classical for statement that we use in most of the programming language. Then at the end I will print. So I will use my info, I will use my str fmt, and I will say con3. Then let me put here a few dots, and then I will say this, and then at the end I will say config. I will say here container3 comma I, and I will close this. That's it. So build is completed. Okay, and we can see the output. So what I will do, I will come here. So go down here. So you see, initially we have these elements like 1, 1, 2 string should be printed. So you can see 1, 1, 2, and then string should be printed. Yeah, this one. Then you see here one update got printed. So this one update, it came from here, this statement 21, because here we have updated the second element to from 1 to 1 updated. Okay, then here we should get a output as 0. And let me go here. So here if you see, we have this output 0. Then you see our container, start one updated, it got printed. So start one updated, it got printed as a string using the contoStr function. And then at the end, you see we should have 3 elements got printed, like 1, 2, 3, because we defined a new container. And you see here, let me go to top. Yeah, you see here 1, 2, 3, these got printed. So let me reiterate all the functions here. So to define a container, you need to use keyword named as container, and inside your container you could store different type of primitive data type, or you could store anything that you want, string, date, real number, integers, combination of could be anything. So this is how we define a container, and here we have simply assigned few random values to our container. Then to get the length of container, we are going to use this function named as conlen. And then to print our element inside a container, we are going to use config function, and here we need to simply pass index. And now we need to remember that the container index starts from 1, not from 0. And then we have conpoke, that is used to update the data inside the element. Here instead of 1, we make this as 1 updated string. And to print anything, we use this conpeek function. To insert any element inside your container, you are going to use this function named as coninsert. Here you need to define an index. I will say this as index, this particular 1, 2, 3, 4. And here you need to simply pass the element that you want to insert. Then we have seen the use of condelete function, that is used to delete the element from a container. The interesting thing is here you need to tell the initial element. So in our case it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will start from here. Then you have defined how many elements you want to delete. So I said I want to delete 2 elements, 1, 2. So our container, then it looks like this. Once this delete statement will get executed. And here we have used this function confind to check whether this element exists inside our container or not. Then we have seen the use of contoStr function, that is used to convert your container into a string. So exactly this particular value here, you see, this is because of contoStr function, this one. And then we defined one more container named as conto, and we simply copy our container 1 here. Okay, since container 2 will be blank here because we have just defined it, so you will get the replica of your container 1 here, and this will get updated inside your container 2. I should have added a statement here, container 2, but yeah, that's fine. Then we have used also one more interesting function named as string to container. Here what we simply define and we put a string here. Initially we defined a string here, then we put the separator here. So what does it do? It segregates, and it created 3 elements and inserted these 3 elements inside your container. And now to get the length and to print, we use conlen and conpeek function respectively. So if you understand that much, it means like you really understand the container. So if you are aware about all these functions, then you can easily use these functions while writing the real business logic. So thank you so much for watching this video.